Emergency services, we need an ambulance at the clinic immediately. We have a woman hemorrhaging on the floor, severe abdominal pain.
I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my best friend Margaret Collins's couch, staring at the ceiling while ice melted against my swollen cheek. Margaret was 73, a retired forensic accountant with a sharper mind than anyone I knew. She'd been my father's friend for over 20 years. As she helped me salvage my soaked belongings from the lawn, she kept shaking her head. "Your dad would never do this, Claire," she said quietly. "Something's wrong." The next morning, our neighbor Mrs. Patterson finally approached us. She looked nervous, glancing toward the house like Ethan might burst out at any moment. "Your father borrowed my phone a week before he died," she whispered. "Said he didn't trust his own. Said someone was listening." That single sentence lodged itself in my chest like a splinter. That night, around 3 a.m., glass shattered. Someone was trying to break into Margaret's house. We locked ourselves in her bedroom and called the police, gripping her late husband's baseball bat. Whoever it was fled before officers arrived, but they left a message spray-painted on her garage door: "Stop digging or next time we come in." Ethan showed up the next morning, fake concern dripping from every word. "Neighborhood's getting dangerous," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Might be safer for you to leave town." Margaret didn't flinch. "Get off my property," she snapped. "Before I remind you why I used to audit criminals for a living." Once he was gone, Margaret opened her laptop. "I still have access to your dad's company records," she said. "Let's see what Ethan's been doing." What we found made my stomach drop. Fake invoices, shell companies, ghost employees, nearly $500,000 stolen, most of it in the last year. Margaret frowned. The withdrawals increased when your dad's health declined. That's when I remembered my father's medication changes. He'd gotten worse, not better. Doctors couldn't explain it. Then his final words came back to me. "Check the basement safe. Behind the water heater. Your mother's birthday." That night, we snuck into the house through an old basement window. Behind the heater was a hidden safe. Inside were 3 things: my father's real notarized will, proof of Ethan's embezzlement, and a letter. If you're reading this, my suspicions were right. Ethan has been giving me my meds. I've documented everything. Trust Margaret. Don't let them win. Margaret went pale. Then she pulled another folder from the safe. Newspaper clippings, obituaries, Linda's previous husbands. All dead, all wealthy, all left her everything. We photographed everything. Upstairs, Ethan's computer was still logged in. Emails confirmed it all, including one line that froze my blood. "If Claire won't sign, we'll handle her like we handled Dad." Blood hit the cold tile before I felt the pain. It splattered across the gynecologist's waiting room floor as my knees buckled and my vision blurred. Patients screamed. A nurse shouted for someone to call. 911. Standing over me was my stepbrother, Ethan Hale, his fist still clenched, legal papers shaking in his hand. "Choose how you pay," he yelled, his voice bouncing off the sterile white walls. "Sign these now, or you're out of Dad's house forever." 3 days earlier, I'd been rushed into emergency surgery. The stitches in my abdomen burned, like they were tearing apart as I tried to push myself up. Ethan didn't care. He never had. "My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 32 years old. 2 weeks ago I had a future, a baby on the way, a father who loved me, a home that felt safe. Now I was bleeding on a clinic floor while my stepbrother tried to erase me from my own life. It started 3 days after my father's funeral. I lost the baby at 14 weeks. The miscarriage wouldn't stop bleeding, turning into an emergency D&C that nearly killed me. The doctor said I was lucky to survive. Lucky. People love that word when they don't know what else to say. I was staying at my dad's house to recover when Ethan and my stepmother, Linda Hale, showed up with a moving truck. They didn't knock. Ethan used his key and walked in like he owned the place. Linda followed with fake sympathy on her face, eyes scanning the furniture like price tags. "Oh, Claire," she said softly, "we heard about the baby." Her voice shook, but her hands were steady. Ethan dropped a stack of papers on the kitchen counter. "Dad left everything to my mom and me. You get 10 grand if you sign today. Tomorrow it's 5. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. My father raised me alone after my mom died. He built his construction company from nothing. He would never cut me out. When I asked to see the real will, Ethan's face darkened. "This is the real one," he snapped. "He signed it before he died. You were too busy with your pregnancy mess to notice. I asked for time, a lawyer. He gave me 24 hours. Then he showed up at my doctor's office. When I refused again, he hit me. The police arrested him, but he was out in 2 hours. That night, I returned to my father's house to find the locks changed and my belongings dumped on the lawn. Clothes soaked, photo albums ruined. My mother's jewelry box lay shattered in the driveway, pearls scattered like tears. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about survival. We took everything straight to Richard Rick Dawson, my father's attorney of 30 years. His office sat above an old hardware store downtown, dusty law books lining the walls like relics. When he read my father's letter, his hands trembled. "He came to me 6 weeks ago," Rick said. "He was scared," said Ethan was watching him. "I told him to document everything. I should have pushed harder." Rick made calls immediately, judges, federal contacts, people who still owed him favors. "This is beyond inheritance fraud," he said. "The pension fund theft alone is federal. But if medication tampering is proven, this becomes homicide." That afternoon, Detective Sarah Nolan walked into Rick's office. Mid-40s, calm eyes, steady voice. "I've been tracking Linda Hale for months," she said. "Too many dead husbands, too many coincidences. Your father fit the pattern." She paused, then softened. "I'm sorry it took this long." Tests on my father's remaining medication confirmed it. Triple the prescribed dose of digoxin, enough to slowly kill him while making it look natural. Nolan explained everything with brutal clarity. Someone wanted time to drain the company before he died. But proof wasn't enough. We needed a confession. I knew Ethan's weakness, his ego, his need to win. If he thought I'd broken, he'd talk. I called him that night. My voice shook for real this time. "You win," I said. "I'll sign. I just want my mom's jewelry back." He smiled through the phone. I could hear it. "Smart choice. Tomorrow, Dad's office." The next call was bait. I mentioned a possible forgotten account, a safety deposit box under my mother's name. Dad said it might be worth a lot. Ethan swallowed it whole. Greed made him reckless. Exactly what we needed. Detective Nolan wired the office. Hidden mics, undercover officers posing as legal assistants. I wore a wire under my blouse, my hands shaking as Margaret helped tape it in place. "You're stronger than you think," she whispered. That morning, Ethan arrived early. He sat in my father's chair like a king. His girlfriend Ashley took selfies beside Dad's awards. Linda walked in carrying champagne. "For after," she said, smiling thinly. Ethan pushed the papers toward me. "Sign and disappear." I asked questions. He bragged about selling the company cheap, about rushing things, about how Dad would have died anyway. Every word went on record. When he grabbed my arm again, Detective Nolan stepped out. "That's enough." Ethan's face drained of color, and Linda tried to run. She didn't get far. Linda barely made it to the door before 2 uniformed officers blocked her path. Her smile collapsed, replaced by cold calculation. "This is a misunderstanding," she said calmly, but her hands shook. Ethan stood frozen, eyes darting between me and Detective Nolan like a trapped animal. The wire beneath my blouse felt heavier with every breath. Detective Nolan read Ethan his rights while another officer cuffed. "Linda!" Ashley screamed, dropping her phone as reality finally caught up to her. "What's happening?" she cried. No one answered. Ethan started talking anyway. He always did. "You think you've won?" He spat at me. "You don't have a case." Nolan didn't respond. She didn't have to. Forensic teams swarmed the office. Computers were seized, files copied, bank records flagged. Ethan's confident mask cracked as agents explained the charges. Wire fraud, pension theft, forgery, assault, and suspected homicide. Linda said nothing as they led her out. But when her eyes met mine, I saw something worse than anger. I saw regret, not for what she'd done, but for getting caught. The arrest didn't bring relief. It brought fear. Nolan warned me not to go anywhere alone. "People like them don't give up easily," she said. She was right. That night, someone tried to run me off the road. A black SUV with no plates swerved into my lane, forcing me onto the shoulder before speeding away. Nolan added attempted intimidation to the file. The autopsy results came back days later. Digoxin poisoning confirmed. My father hadn't died peacefully in his sleep. He'd been murdered slowly, deliberately, by people he trusted. I broke down in Nolan's office, grief crashing through me like a wave. Margaret held my hand, whispering, "He knew you'd finish this." The trial moved fast. Too much evidence. Too many witnesses. Ethan's former accomplices turned on him for reduced sentences. Linda's past finally caught up with her. Exhumations ordered. Investigations reopened in 3 states. Insurance companies froze assets. The estate was locked down. The company pension fund was restored. But the hardest part came when Ethan took the stand. He tried to blame Linda, claimed he was manipulated. The jury didn't buy it. When he looked at me, his voice broke. I just wanted what was mine. I didn't look away. You already had everything, I said quietly. You just wanted more. The verdict took 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. As they led him away, Ethan finally understood what he'd lost. Not money, not power, but every chance at a future. I walked out of the courthouse into the sunlight. Exhausted, grieving, but standing. For the first time since the waiting room floor, I felt something new. I felt free. Freedom didn't feel the way I expected. It wasn't relief or victory. It was quiet, heavy and lonely. After the verdict, I returned to my father's house alone. The locks had been replaced again, this time legally. Walking inside felt like stepping into a memory frozen in time. His boots by the door. His coffee mug still in the sink. I sat on the kitchen floor and cried until my chest hurt. Margaret helped me sort through the house. We found small things that mattered more than money. Handwritten notes. Birthday cards he never mailed. A photo of us at my high school graduation, folded into his Bible. He was proud of. You, she said. I already knew. That made the loss sharper. The company board reinstated my father's original plans. Employees kept their jobs. The pension fund was secured. They asked if I wanted to sell my shares. I said no. I wasn't ready to let go of the last thing he built with his own hands. Detective Nolan checked in often. The intimidation attempt was traced back to one of Ethan's former contacts, quickly shut down once arrests spread. You're safe, she assured me. As safe as you can be. Linda was charged in multiple states. More families came forward. More graves were opened. A pattern too ugly to ignore. One afternoon, Nolan handed me a final report. Inside was a note my father had written weeks before his death. If anything happens to me, Claire deserves the truth. She's stronger than she knows. I held that sentence like a lifeline. Therapy helped. Slowly. Grief came in waves. Sometimes anger. Sometimes numbness. The miscarriage haunted me most at night. The what-ifs. The silence. But I learned to breathe through it. To forgive myself for surviving. Months passed. Spring returned. I planted flowers in the backyard where my father once built a treehouse for me. I kept the pearls from my mother's necklace and had them restrung. Not to forget, but to remember. One evening, I received a letter from prison. From Ethan, I didn't open it. I threw it away without reading a word. Some voices don't deserve space in your life. Standing on the porch at sunset, I realized something important. They tried to erase me. They failed. I was still here, still standing, and my story wasn't over yet. The letter I threw away didn't stay gone. 2 days later, Detective Nolan called me. Ethan requested a meeting, she said. He claims there's information you need about your father. My stomach tightened. I didn't want to see him. But Nolan's tone told me this wasn't optional. We think he's trying to negotiate, she added. If there's anything else buried, now's the time. The prison visiting room smelled like disinfectant and regret. Ethan looked smaller behind the glass. The arrogance finally burned out of him. His hair had gone fully gray. He didn't smile when he saw me. You look healthy, he said quietly. I didn't respond. I didn't act alone, he continued. You know about Linda, but there was someone else. A cardiologist, Dr. Paul Renner. He altered the prescriptions. Linda paid him. Nolan's pen stopped mid-sentence. That name meant something. Renner had overseen my father's care during his final months. Ethan leaned forward. Dad figured it out. He confronted Renner. That's why things sped up, his voice cracked. Linda panicked. The evidence was enough. Renner was arrested within a week. He confessed quickly, trading information for a reduced sentence. It explained everything. Why my father's decline made no medical sense. Why complaints were ignored. Why the dosage changes kept happening. The system that should have protected him had failed. When the news broke, the story went national. Headlines, interviews, commentators called me brave, strong, a survivor. They didn't see the nights I couldn't breathe, the mornings I woke up expecting my dad's voice. But something shifted after Renner's arrest. The anger eased. The questions stopped circling. I finally had the whole truth. I went back to the basement one last time. The safe was empty now, but I stood there anyway, hand on the wall where it had been hidden. I did it, Dad, I whispered. They won't hurt anyone else. That night, I slept without nightmares for the first time in months. Justice didn't bring him back, but it gave me peace. The sentencing hearing was quiet. No drama, no speeches. Ethan received decades. Linda received life without parole. Dr. Renner lost his license and his freedom. When the judge finished reading the sentences, I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure, the kind that settles slowly, like dust after a storm. I moved back into my father's house for good. Not because it was easy, but because it mattered. I kept his office the same desk, same chair. I ran the company with the board's help, not as a replacement for him, but as a continuation. The employees treated me like family. Some of them cried when they saw me sign my first contract. He'd be proud, they said. They were right. On the anniversary of my father's death, I visited the cemetery alone. I brought fresh flowers and the red-strung pearl necklace. I told him about everything. The arrests, the trial, the baby I lost, the strength I found. You saved me, I whispered. Even at the end. A breeze passed through the trees, gentle and warm. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. Life didn't magically fix itself. Grief doesn't work that way, but it softened. I learned how to live around it. I started volunteering with a support group for women dealing with estate abuse and caregiver fraud. The stories were different, but the pain was the same. I told them one thing my father taught me without ever saying it out loud. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. One afternoon, as I locked up the office, I caught my reflection in the glass. I looked older, stronger, still standing. They tried to break me at my weakest moment. They failed. I went home, turned on the lights, and poured a cup of coffee into my father's old mug. I raised it in the quiet kitchen. We made it, I said softly. And I meant it. If this story moved you, shocked you, or reminded you that truth always finds a way out, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful stories like this. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single one. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for listening.